Picture this: Caracas, Venezuela, 2019. You're standing in what used to be a thriving middle-class apartment building, and your neighbor, a software engineer before the collapse, is desperately trying to access his Bitcoin wallet. He has $3,000 worth of Bitcoin on a hardware wallet, but the electricity has been out for 6 days straight. The internet infrastructure collapsed 2 weeks ago. His phone died 3 days ago, and there's no way to charge it. Meanwhile, the farmer downstairs, who couldn't even spell cryptocurrency, just traded a sack of rice for antibiotics that saved his daughter's life. The engineer, with his Bitcoin, he's offering anyone a percentage of his crypto fortune for a single meal. No one's interested. They can't eat digital coins, and there's no network to transfer them anyway. This isn't hypothetical. This was documented by multiple journalists and humanitarian workers operating in Venezuela during the infrastructure collapse. And here's what should terrify every Bitcoin maximalist watching this. In every documented economic collapse where both cryptocurrency holders and traditional preppers existed, the preppers with physical assets survived, while crypto investors starved waiting for the internet to come back online. The conventional wisdom in 2026 says, Bitcoin is digital gold, the ultimate hedge against inflation and government overreach. Store your wealth in the blockchain. Be your own bank. I've explored this narrative myself. But when we forensically examine what actually happens during total systemic collapse, not YouTube theory, documented boots-on-the-ground reality, Bitcoin ranks far below something else entirely. Skills, land, energy independence, community infrastructure, the true Amish Hedge. By the end of this video, you'll understand why a $5,000 investment in solar panels and water filtration will save your family when $50,000 in Bitcoin won't. Let me show you the pattern, because this has happened before, multiple times across multiple countries, and the data tells the same brutal story every single time. Number 1. Infrastructure collapse happens before currency collapse. Here's what Bitcoin advocates fundamentally misunderstand. They're preparing for a world where the financial system fails, but the technological infrastructure remains intact. That's not how real collapse works. In Venezuela, the electricity grid failed before the Bolivar completely died. Between 2018 and 2019, Venezuela experienced multiple nationwide blackouts, some lasting more than a week. The longest blackout in March 2019 lasted 7 days and affected 23 of 24 states. No electricity means no internet. No internet means no blockchain access. No blockchain access means your Bitcoin might as well not exist. The mechanism is mathematical. Bitcoin requires 3 critical infrastructure components to function: electricity, internet connectivity, and functioning device hardware. Remove any one of these 3 elements, and Bitcoin becomes completely inaccessible. Not diminished in value, completely inaccessible. Compare this to physical assets. A solar panel generates electricity regardless of grid status. A water filter purifies water whether the municipal system functions or not. A garden produces food independent of supply chains. These assets maintain full functionality during infrastructure collapse. Bitcoin maintains 0 functionality. Number 2. Lebanon proved crypto's fatal flaw. Lebanon's economic collapse from 2019 to present provides the most devastating case study against cryptocurrency as a collapse hedge. In October 2019, Lebanese banks imposed capital controls, limiting withdrawals to $200 per week, then $100, then essentially freezing accounts entirely. The Lebanese pound lost 98% of its value against the dollar within 18 months. This is exactly the scenario Bitcoin advocates say crypto protects against. So what happened to Lebanese crypto holders? They faced catastrophic problems Bitcoin maximalists never predicted. First, the same capital controls that froze bank accounts made it nearly impossible to convert Bitcoin back to usable local currency. Second, Lebanon experienced rolling blackouts lasting 12 to 20 hours per day. Internet connectivity became sporadic and unreliable. Third, people needed immediate purchasing power for food, medicine, and fuel. Bitcoin's volatility meant it could drop 20% in the time it took to arrange a trade. One documented account from a Beirut resident, a tech worker who had converted savings to cryptocurrency, specifically as a hedge, described trying to buy bread with Bitcoin. The baker had no smartphone, no internet, no understanding of cryptocurrency, and no interest in learning. The baker accepted US dollars, gold jewelry, and direct barter of goods. Bitcoin was worthless to him. The tech worker eventually traded his laptop, not his Bitcoin, for food to feed his family. In real collapse, liquidity matters more than stored value. An asset you cannot quickly convert to immediate necessities is a liability, not a hedge. Number 3. The Great Depression revealed what actually holds value. The Great Depression provides the longest documented economic collapse in American history, spanning over a decade from 1929 to 1941. The pattern is unambiguous. Families with productive land, practical skills, and physical tools survived. Families dependent on paper assets, even legitimate ones like bank deposits and stocks, were devastated. Documented experiences from rural communities show farm families with as little as 5 to 10 acres of productive land maintained adequate nutrition throughout the Depression. They grew vegetables, raised chickens for eggs and meat, kept dairy cattle for milk, and produced fruit from small orchards. Urban families with no productive capacity faced genuine hunger. Unemployment in cities reached 25%. Here's the critical question. If Bitcoin had existed during the Great Depression, which group would it have helped? The farmer with 10 acres producing food had no need for an alternative currency. He was operating in a barter and direct use economy. The unemployed urban worker holding Bitcoin would have faced the same problem as the Lebanese tech worker. No one to trade with, no infrastructure to facilitate transactions, and immediate needs Bitcoin couldn't address. Victory gardens during World War II proved this principle at scale. More than 20 million gardens were planted. He's producing 8 million tons of food, over 40% of all vegetables consumed in the United States. These were physical productive assets that generated immediate utility, regardless of economic conditions. A digital wallet produces nothing. Number 4. The Texas freeze showed how fast. Modern infrastructure fails. February 2021. Texas, the 9th largest economy in the world, if it were an independent country, experienced catastrophic infrastructure failure. A winter storm caused cascading failures in the electrical grid, leaving 4.5 million people without power, some for more than a week. Temperatures dropped below freezing. Pipes burst. Water treatment facilities failed. People died. Here's what happened to Bitcoin holders during the Texas freeze. Nothing special. They lost access to their wallets just like everyone else lost access to electrical infrastructure. If you had $100,000 in Bitcoin but no generator, no backup power, no alternative heating source, you were in the same desperate situation as someone with $1,000 in a checking account. Compare this to Texans with preparedness infrastructure. Homes with whole-house generators maintained power throughout the crisis. Families with propane or wood-burning heating sources stayed warm. People with water filtration systems and stored water maintained hydration. Those with stocked pantries didn't face empty grocery store shelves. These physical preparations cost roughly the same as a modest Bitcoin investment, $5,000 to $15,000 for comprehensive backup systems, but provided actual utility during infrastructure failure. The Texas freeze lasted 1 week. Imagine if it had lasted 1 month, 6 months, a year. Number 5. The hidden cost. Bitcoin advocates never calculate. Here's what keeps me up at night. Bitcoin maximalists calculate cost in dollars per coin or market cap, or projected future value. They never calculate the opportunity cost of capital allocation. Every dollar spent on Bitcoin is a dollar not spent on productive assets, energy infrastructure, water security, food production capacity, or skill development. Let me show you the math. A $50,000 Bitcoin investment in 2026 buys you 0.5 to 1.5 Bitcoin, depending on price volatility. That Bitcoin generates zero income, produces nothing, requires ongoing security measures, and depends entirely on complex global infrastructure remaining functional. Compare that to $50,000 allocated across the Amish Hedge framework. $10,000 buys a comprehensive solar panel system with battery storage, generating 15 to 30 kilowatt hours per day, enough to run a household indefinitely without grid dependence. $8,000 buys a whole house water filtration system, a well pump with manual backup, and 5 years of replacement filters. $7,000 buys comprehensive food storage, 25-year shelf life freeze-dried meals, grains, legumes, and canned goods, sufficient for a family of 4 for 6 months. $5,000 pays for intensive skill development, master gardening courses, wilderness first responder medical training, equipment repair certification. $5,000 buys community infrastructure, radio communication equipment, neighborhood emergency coordination. $5,000 buys hand tools, repair equipment, and manual backup systems. $10,000 remains for precious metals, providing optionality for post-crisis stabilization. The Bitcoin investment produces nothing and remains inaccessible during infrastructure failure. The diversified physical investment produces electricity, clean water, food security, enhanced skills, community resilience, and genuine independence from fragile systems. The math isn't even close. Number 6. Network dependency is a single point of failure. Bitcoin advocates celebrate decentralization, no central bank, no government control, distributed ledger technology. But they ignore Bitcoin's catastrophic centralized dependency, the internet itself. Bitcoin is completely, totally, absolutely dependent on a functioning global internet infrastructure. This is the ultimate single point of failure. The internet is not as resilient as people assume. Egypt shut down internet access nationwide in 2011 during the Arab Spring protests. Myanmar's military government imposed internet blackouts in 2021. Russia has tested disconnecting from the global internet. India has imposed over 500 internet shutdowns since 2012. In each case, cryptocurrency holders in affected regions lost access to their wealth instantly and completely. Now, imagine a scenario that's not hypothetical, but actively discussed by security experts. Get a coordinated cyber attack on critical infrastructure, or a Carrington event-level solar storm that damages electrical grids and satellite networks globally. In either scenario, Bitcoin becomes inaccessible for months, or potentially years, while infrastructure is rebuilt. Your wealth locked in a digital format, unavailable precisely when you need it most. Contrast this with physical assets. Solar panels continue generating electricity regardless of internet status. Water filters continue purifying water. Gardens continue producing food. Tools continue functioning. Skills remain in your mind and hands. These assets have zero dependency on complex technological infrastructure. Number 7. Community networks beat. Digital networks. Meta-analytic research across 148 studies with over 300,000 participants found that individuals with stronger social relationships had a 50% increased likelihood of survival compared to those with weaker social connections. 50%. That effect size exceeds most medical interventions and rivals the survival advantage of quitting smoking. During every documented collapse, survival depended on community networks, trusted relationships, reciprocal obligations, and coordinated mutual aid. Bitcoin's pseudonymous, trustless transaction model is optimized for the exact opposite scenario. Transactions with unknown counterparties without requiring trust. This works fine for buying products online during normal times. It's catastrophically unsuited for collapse conditions where trust is everything. The Amish thrive during economic disruption, not because they have superior technology, they explicitly reject it, but because they have superior community infrastructure. Barn raisings, mutual aid networks, inter-family cooperation, and shared resources. These social technologies are ancient and unglamorous, but they're survival tested across centuries. Bitcoin is 15 years old and has never been tested in true societal collapse. Number 8. Skills cannot be stolen or confiscated. Bitcoin advocates love the phrase, "not your keys, not your coins," emphasizing the importance of self-custody. But hardware wallets can be stolen. Seed phrases can be forgotten or lost in house fires. Encryption passwords can be extracted through coercion. Bitcoin can be confiscated by governments through mandatory exchanges or by criminals through violence. Skills, by contrast, cannot be stolen. A doctor's medical knowledge, a carpenter's building expertise, a gardener's cultivation techniques, these exist in the person's mind and hands. Even if all physical possessions are seized, skills remain. The Great Depression demonstrated this principle at scale. People with practical skills found ways to generate income even when formal employment collapsed. They caught and sold fish, grew and sold produce, mended and altered clothing, performed carpentry and repair work. Here's the investment comparison. A $5,000 Bitcoin investment gives you Bitcoin. A $5,000 skill investment, paying for intensive training in high-value survival skills, gives you income-generating capability that functions in any economic environment. The Bitcoin can be lost, stolen, or made inaccessible. The skills are permanent, portable, and productive. So, here's what you actually do. The Amish Hedge is a diversified resilience strategy combining 5 elements, prioritized by importance and independence from fragile systems. Number 1, energy independence. Install solar panels with battery storage sized to your household needs. A typical system costs $8,000 to $15,000 and provides genuine electrical independence. Add a backup generator with fuel storage for redundancy. Total energy investment, $10,000 to $18,000, buys you freedom from grid dependency. Number 2, water security. If you have land, drill a well with both electric and manual pump capability. Install whole house water filtration. Add rainwater collection with minimum 500-gallon storage. Total water investment, $6,000 to $15,000, buys you independence from municipal water systems. Number 3, food production and storage. Start intensive gardening. A quarter-acre garden can produce significant food with proper management. Take permaculture or master gardening training. Stockpile 6 months of shelf-stable food for your household. Total food investment, $5,000 to $12,000, buys you significant food security. Number 4, practical skills development. Invest heavily in training that builds productive capacity. Wilderness first responder medical training, equipment repair and maintenance, food preservation and canning, carpentry or electrical basics. Total skills investment, $2,000 to $4,000, buys you permanent income-generating capability. Number 5, community infrastructure and tools. Buy quality hand tools that don't require power. Invest in communication equipment, ham radio systems for long-range communication when cell networks fail. Join or form local preparedness networks. Allocate $3,000 to $5,000 for community building and tool acquisition. Notice Bitcoin appears nowhere in this framework. That's not an accident. Bitcoin provides no productive capacity, generates no income, requires complex infrastructure to access, and fails precisely when you need alternatives most. The question isn't if, it's when. The evidence from multiple documented collapses, Venezuela, Lebanon, the Great Depression, Texas, converges on a single conclusion. When systems fail, when survival depends on productive capacity, practical skills, energy and resource independence, and community networks. Not digital tokens, not complex financial instruments, not technological dependencies. Bitcoin is optimized for a world where technological infrastructure functions perfectly, but trust in institutions fails. That's not how real collapse works. Real collapse means simultaneous failure of currency, infrastructure, supply chains, and institutional capacity. In that environment, Bitcoin is worthless, while productive assets are priceless. If this forensic breakdown shattered your assumptions about cryptocurrency as collapse insurance, hit that subscribe button. This channel performs autopsies on failed economic systems, so you see the patterns before they repeat in your neighborhood. Drop a helicopter emoji if you're already building the Amish Hedge, and tell me what collapse scenario you want me to forensically examine next. The only question is whether you'll see it coming, or be standing there with 50,000 in Bitcoin, no electricity, no internet, watching the person next to you trade eggs from their backyard chickens for antibiotics, while you can't access your digital wallet. Now go build resilience before you're forced to.